All right, so I finally got Derek off the phone and into the studio. We're just having a conversation about the Detroit Lions today. Most notably, we're talking about the defensive line, and it's been a topic of discussion for quite a while now that a lot of us have a lot of questions, and we don't understand why Brad Holmes or why AG, why they're not doing the things that they should be to help strengthen this team. So, Derek, I'm going to just throw it back to you, man. Tell me what you think about the defensive line, and let's be honest here. No punches held this time.
Well,
what do you honestly think about Aiden Hutchinson? I want to know about that too.
Okay. All right. So first about the defensive line, I feel that is lacking. I've felt that since I've been on this platform. I've been talking Detroit Lions for 5+ years. And I felt like it's even back in the Matt Patricia days that it was severely lacking. We have a chance to get Aiden Hutchinson. We do. And since then, it seems like we don't have a ton of guys to help him. We got a Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara, stuff like that. They're not good enough, in my opinion. And it shows in not only their stats, but Aiden's as well. And as far as Aiden is concerned, I think he is not elite. I don't think he's near elite. I think he has elite potential, but there's some things he needs to work on. And there's a lot of things he can do to improve his game. And I think he will do that. And I think in 2 years, we'll be having a conversation about him getting a big fat payday. But I know you got some different feelings, though.
Yeah, and I think, well, I have different feelings, yeah, but I think it comes from a place of I see what I see. And right now, I don't see, like you just said, a person that's elite. I don't see somebody becoming elite at this point for a few reasons. But let me wind it back to something you said about Hutchinson and him not having the players around him. What I noticed back in the draft when we were taking Aiden Hutchinson and that previous season where he had like 19 sacks, he was on a loaded Michigan defense. I mean, completely loaded. All 4- and 5-star athletes. They were going up against an average of 80th to 120th offensive lines in the NC2A. They only went up, I think, against 2 top 25 teams that had an offense that were ranked in the top 25. Aiden Hutchinson got his sacks against the majority of offensive lines that were terrible and got his production against offenses that were terrible. He only had a few sacks against Ohio State and Michigan State combined out of that whole 19. So when I saw that, and then I saw the type of, team that they had, I've always had this type of defense in mind called the hive defense, where everyone's working together, right? Michigan's defense in that season before Aiden was drafted was that exact defense. They all worked together. Aiden got free a lot because the offense had to worry about so many different players. That was my worry about Aiden. I'm thinking we don't have the type of defense for Aiden. We don't have the players, the personnel for Aiden. He's not going to be able to produce for us until we have other players on this team that can produce, that offenses are going to have to worry about. So I guess Aiden is a product of the Lions not being ready. And he's also a product that he's just not producing. And he's not the type of player I don't believe is going to produce by himself ever. I think that he needs a role within a cast of players around him. Does that make sense?
It does. But let me retort to that. So who would you say right now in the NFL, specifically, we're talking about defensive end right now, right?
Yeah.
So what defensive end would you say off the top of your head? There are no wrong answers, but I'm just curious. Who is that defensive end that is doing that by himself?
Myles Garrett is one of the best to ever do it. The guy is double teamed like 40+% of the time, and those are actual stats. And he's winning about 30% of his pass rush reps. So he's someone that does it. And you know that, and I won't go too long into this, but you know that I just put together a bunch of stats on these guys. And when I looked at one thing in particular, it was arm length. Aiden has one of the shortest arms for his height. And there's like Bruce Irvin, right? The guy that we just got. His arms are longer than Aiden's, and he's 4 inches shorter. arm length is a true thing in the NFL for tackles and DNs. And I always felt like it was going to inhibit Aiden to be able to get off of those tackles. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before, but I just don't see Aiden winning by himself. I just don't see it.
Okay. All right. So Nick Bosa would win by himself. TJ Watt would win by himself. What do you think?
Is that are you asking me a question there?
Yeah. I'm asking you a
I
question.
think we've seen them both produce by themselves, but you also have to look at the cast. I can't even remember who was on the Texans team when JJ Watt was there, but he did have a good cast of players around him too.
Mm-hmm.
It requires, I don't care what NFL team it is or what player it is. To some degree, you do need a dominant defensive tackle, another dominant linebacker, a shutdown corner, shut down by our standards. There's truly only 12 that have ever played the game, but you do need some other pieces to help each other win, right? And if you don't have those pieces, a guy like Myles Garrett can still do it on his own. He's done it year after year. He's just gotten better when he's had better role players around him.
Okay. All right. So I agree with that assessment completely. And like I said to start this video, is Aiden is not that guy yet. But when you look at his supporting cast, in my honest opinion, he has no one. He has no one. Broderick Martin, why do we have him? Brad did not make a move to do anything at the trade deadline. And you know how I feel about Bruce Irvin, 36 years old, 3.5 sacks. Okay, cool. But when you look at, I'm feeling like this. If you gave Aiden Hutchinson just a smidget, you give him a Cam Hayward, you give him a Javon Hargrave, you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got Josh Allen, they have Trayvon Walker, they had Arden Key at one point. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, the rich get richer. You go to our team, and I'll say this about Aiden. I'm not an Aiden fanboy. I think there's a lot to his game he needs to improve, and I think he will. But I think if you had someone to account for other than him, then this is a different conversation. There is no one. I've seen multiple videos. Brian Baldinger, he made one about what the Green Bay Packers did to eliminate anything coming from him, where Aiden Hutchinson was a non-factor. And if you remember, Will, which I know you do because you were at that game, and we were texting about it, is all you had to do was neutralize Hutch, and the rest was history. And Jordan Love sat back there like Picasso ripping us up. So as far as Aiden is concerned, I agree with what you're saying 100%, but I'm also going to say it's year 2, and I think this guy, based on what I've seen, his work ethic, that he is going to internalize all that he buffed up this year. I think he continues to do it. Maybe he works with a Nick Bosa, a Myles Garrett. And as far as Myles Garrett, this dude is, he's a specimen. Like this dude is ridiculous. So when it comes to Hutch, I agree with everything you said, but I also am going to put that on his supporting cast as well. You have our dominant defensive tackle is Aleem McNeil.
And he's small for a DT.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So for me, bro, Hutch, he has potential, and I think that he'll reach it. He might one day become that guy that can do it on his own. Right now, he's not that guy.
And I would say that I'm glad we see somewhat eye to eye on Hutch. It's just he's kind of stuck in this catch-22 himself, where he is a hard worker. Like, we know that his tenacity and and the way that he gets after it. He's a consummate pro. He's a pro's pro. He's going to give you everything he has. The guy goes a million miles an hour on every single play, but I feel like he's just missing a couple of things. And technique, I feel like he's got some issues with technique right now. And look, I'm not, Mr. Know-it-all. I'm not the world's best defensive end. I'm just somebody that studies a hell of a lot of tape, more than your average guy. And he just doesn't have, in what I believed, the right techniques for what he has for skill sets that could work for him. So I'm going to throw one other question at you. There's one guy I did want over Aiden, and I'm sure you know who that is.
You got to remind me again.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh Lord. Okay.
And everyone told me, and all of the whether it was Facebook wars or whatever was going on at the time, where we're sending in our thoughts and ideas about draft picks, everyone always ripped me about KT. And I said, look, he's raw. You give him one season, let him get integrated into the league. That guy has the measurables. And he has the technique. He'll do it. Who's next to him is my question. Like who's on his defense that really is much better than what we have on our defense? Do you know offhand? Because I really don't know offhand.
They got Dexter Lawrence, right? He's there.
Yep, they got Lawrence.
After that, I couldn't even tell you. Well, while you're doing that, Kayvon Thibodeau, we talked about it the other day, and I remember we had 7 scouts. Brad Holmes was at the game. Everybody said we were going to take Kayvon Thibodeau, and he's how many sacks? 10.5 this year.
10.5, yeah.
10.5, and he still got six games to go. His second year outshined Aiden his first year. So yeah, I just don't think when it came to Kayvon that he was a fit for the team. And I know that you and I and other fan base, part of the fan bases are saying, hey, Brad Holmes, when are we going to overlook maybe potentially somebody not being a good fit for their skill set? And I think the problem with Kayvon is when it comes down to his work ethic, his motor, I think that, and his desire to be in the city of Detroit, let me ask you this, Will, do you think from Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's perspective, Kayvon Thibodeau is a football player?
I couldn't answer that question because I'm not inside their mind, but I would have to say that he must not have been inside their mind, because that's why they didn't take him. But they wanted to take the Michigan guy. They wanted to take the hometown guy. I feel like that there was a lot cooking for that pick. You've got Dexter Lawrence, Ashawn Robinson used to be a Lion.
Yeah, that's like it.
Kayvon Thibodeau at the rush end, Bobby Okerke, a middle linebacker, Micah McFadden at the will, Deontay Banks, who is he a rookie this season at corner?
On his secondary now, right?
Yeah, you got Adoree Jackson at the left corner. The cornerbacks matter too, to see they got a shutdown backfield that allows these guys to eat. Okay. Cordell Flott, nickel. I don't know any of these guys other than Deontay Banks. So beside Dexter Lawrence, Ashawn Robinson, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau. Is that really that much better of a defensive front than what we have? I don't think it is. But the point that I'm going to try to make is, if Kayvon is having this much success in year 2, are his measurables the reason why? Because his arms are longer than 32 1/4 inch. His arms are 33 1/4. He's got 9 3/4 hands. He's 6'5", not 6'7". He's 258. And the biggest knock I had on Aiden is when these tackles get inside him, right? They get inside his shoulder pads and they lock in. He has a hard time pushing off and getting away. And then we see that crazy spin move that spins him out of control, and he spins out of the play. And sometimes you see Justin Fields going around the other end, whatever the case may be. And this is not a bash Hutch session. It's just the honesty. It's the truth. It's the transparency. It's, what do I see? And I'm sure you're not going to agree with all of it, and that's okay. This is just what I see. I looked at the measurables. The measurables made sense. That's why I wanted KT. When I watched the film, I didn't see much difference between KT and Hutch, other than Hutch had a crazy surrounding cast around him at Michigan. So when I break down tape and I look through these things, that's what I was looking for. I do believe that Hutch is going to be a phenomenal player throughout his entire NFL career. I just don't know if he's going to be that home run guy that we're looking for.
Okay. I'll just say this regarding everything you said about that. I haven't seen a ton of Giants games, but I know that Kayvon Thibodeau is not really in the dirt, right? He's more of a stand-up guy. So you have where is he coming from? Reminds me a lot of like a Micah Parsons. And is that who Hutch is? And if you were to put, I mean, for instance, do you think James Houston's an in the dirt guy?
No, he's definitely a stand-up. He's definitely a stand-up, even a wide 9 guy. You know, like he doesn't even have to have his hand in the dirt, but
yeah, because he's going to rely on speed. So my thing is when he's coming, when Kayvon Thibodeau is, where is he coming from? Is he in that Brian Burns role? Is he in that, or is he? So I think his sacks, like I haven't seen many games, but I think his sacks might come from where he's positioned at, how it's schemed. And when I look at them, Will, I see one guy with an outstanding motor and one guy that might be on that E85, and that would be Kayvon Thibodeau. So for me, I think that the Detroit Lions made the right decision. I don't think, and we talked about a guy named Aaron Donald, whose measurables when it comes to his arms weren't that great, but I know we had a conversation about that. Aiden's not even on that level yet, but I think Aiden has potential, and I'm glad we took him over Kayvon. Kayvon Thibodeau does not fit who this team is.
I think Hutch fits the team perfectly. I just don't know if all of his measurables fit. And quick, thing about Aaron Donald is, I think he's barely 6 foot or maybe 6'1",
maybe.
So he's got that leverage component to his game where, 6'7", 6'1", you're talking,
like
pretty, he can get underneath the tackles or the guards.
Yeah.
And once he's inside, he wins, I mean, the dude is ripped. Big difference. So anyway, look, Derek, it's always a pleasure to have conversations with you, man. And I hope that the fans get used to having some more. We'll see, what they think about this. If they want to see more, I'm sure they'll let us know. And we'll go from there. Is there anything else you want to say or add?
I'm just going to say, of course, they want to see 2 of the best to do it. Maybe even
there you go.
The 2 best. I'm just saying, I'm not one to toot my own horn, but I'm tooting it today. So
that's right. Well, hey, it's a pleasure, man. I can't wait to see what happens this week. We got a short week now till the rest of to see the game day here on Sunday against the Saints. Anything you want to add real quick about the Saints?
That we should beat them.
We should. With Anzalone out, I'm worried.
Well, that might have to be a different conversation.
All right. Maybe next time when you catch us here on I don't know what the show's called. We'll see you later.
Wants to throw it to Short. He caught it. He's going on first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day 1.
No respect.